This is the second in our series of webinars on corporate forex hedging, and today we'll be talking about the principles of corporate forex hedging. The first one we had done was on the tools of hedging, and today we will be taking up the principles of forex hedging. So today's webinar, the principles that we will be, the first one is that forex is your business. The second is your exposure is your position. Then we would like to go for gross hedging and not net hedging. And never zero, never 100, not all at once. Use forecasts for budgeting and for hedging. And finally, measure your performance. So these are all parts of a jigsaw puzzle. So these are the half a dozen principles of forex hedging which make for good, successful hedging. The first one is forex is your business. Why do I say that? Anything that impacts your business is your business. So for instance, training is not the business of Infosys, yet it trains its people, right? Power generation is not the business of most companies, yet they all install power capacity. Money market trading is certainly not the business of most companies, yet everyone tries to save on interest costs. Policing is not the business of most companies, yet they spend on security. Basically, everything that impacts your business is your business. And by that token, Forex is your business. We may not have wished for Forex risk, and Forex trading certainly may not be our business, but managing Forex risk well is certainly very much a part of our business. Unless we get this first basic principle correct, there's no way that we can do hedging properly. And the number of people who tell us that Forex is not my business, and we've been taught by textbooks, we've been taught by, say, banks or by academia that Forex is not your business. I would say that everything that impacts your business is your business. We have to recognize that, then only we'll start working upon it. And only when we start working upon it, we will get better and better at doing it. So the first basic principle of Forex hedging is to believe that Forex is my business. Certainly Forex trading might not be my business, but managing Forex risk is my business. Second, your exposure is your position. In this entire webinar, you might come across some concepts which you say, okay, I've heard this before. And some of these might be common, but even today, after 30 years in the market, I still keep hearing this, something which makes me point this out, that your exposure is your position. If we see this movement in dollar rupee, when this year market moved up from 71.5 to 76.5 in the blue box, the exporters gained while the importers lost. And then later, when the market has fallen from 76.5 to 73.5, importers have gained and exporters have lost. Now we all know this, but it doesn't come into our mind exactly like that. See, an importer, when he is unhedged, he lost money when the dollar rupee moved from 71.5. This is the payoff chart. He lost money when dollar rupee moved from 71.5 to 76.5. The profit of the importer came down. And then when the market has moved from 76.5 to 73.5, he's moved from losses towards profit. So an importer is short dollars. Likewise, an exporter who is unhedged, he made money when the dollar rupee moved from 71.5 on this scale to 76.5. He moved up the profit line. And he lost money when dollar rupee fell from 76.5 to 73.5, he moved down the profit line. So this is the payoff of somebody who is long dollars. So an exporter is long dollars. Or in other words, like it or not, the importer holds a short position in dollar rupee by the very virtue of the fact that he's an importer. And like it or not, the exporter holds a long position in dollar rupee due to his exports. This is very, very important to understand that as an importer, I have a position in the market. As an exporter, I have a position in the market. My import gives me a short dollar position. My export gives me a long dollar position. My hedge, so your exposure is not your position. You hold a short or a long position because of your import or your export. We have to be bothered about the profit or loss on our exposure. This is very, very important to understand. As we said, an importer is short dollars and an exporter is long dollars. These are the payoff profiles when the dollar rupee moves from 76 to 75 to 71, then the importer makes profit. He loses when the market moves from 74 to 76, 77, 78, 79. Conversely, the exporter loses money when dollar rupee moves down and he makes profit when dollar rupee moves up. Now, this might be, इसमें क्या बड़ी बात है, जानी भी बात है, but no, the important thing is to start to think of the export or the import as the position. This position, why I'm saying this again and again, it comes naturally. It is as part of the business, and that's why it's kind of invisible. But we have to put our focus on the export or the import. And what is a hedge? The hedge is not your position. So many people today, even today, say that when I've taken a forward contract, I've taken a position. No, 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 no. When you've taken a forward contract, you've not taken a position. You only close or nullify your original exposure position by taking a hedge. So say this was the payoff profile for the importer. When you buy dollar forward, this becomes the payoff profile of the forward dollar purchase, and these two nullify each other. Conversely, for the exporter, the blue line was his long dollar position, and he goes out and sells dollar forward. So that is the red line is the payoff profile on the sold dollar hedge on the forward contract. So, and these two together, what happens is they nullify each other, and the importer is left with a flat payoff profile, which means that he's indifferent whether the market goes up to 79 or goes down to 69. The exporter also becomes indifferent whether the market goes up to 79 or goes down to 69. When the two are taken together, the original exposure position and the hedge taken together nullify. So by taking a hedge, we are merely closing or nullifying the original exposure. And when my hedge loses money, my exposure is making money. So I have to keep remembering that I have to make money on my exposure, or I have to bother about the profit or loss on my exposure, which is my export or import. And my forward contract or my hedge is just a superimposition on that. Okay, we will be having question answers. So if anyone has questions on this, please feel free to ask about this. But even today, when we talk to clients think of the hedge as the position. The hedge is not the position. So we repeat, your exposure is your position. You hold a short or long position because of your imports and exports, and you have to be bothered about the profit and loss on your exposure. Your hedge is not your position. You only close or nullify your exposure by taking a hedge. When your hedge loses money, your exposure makes money. Now, I am an importer, and dollar rupee is falling from 76 half to 74 half or to 74. And then I take a forward contract. What am I doing? I am taking profit on my short dollar position. The fall from 76 half to 74 is giving me a profit. By taking a forward contract and doing take profit on my short dollar position. Or if I'm an exporter, and dollar rupee has fallen from 76 half to 74, and then I take a forward contract on the export, I'm doing a stop loss on my long dollar position. The long dollar position on my export is losing money. By taking a forward contract, I'm doing a stop loss on that long dollar position, which is losing money. I hope this is absolutely clear. Why I'm saying this? Because people are still confused about the hedge being the position. The hedge is not the position. The hedge may be something that we are entering into voluntarily, whereas the exposure gives me a position involuntarily, but it is the exposure which is to be protected. Okay, so this is the second basic but very, very important principle. The third is that we should look for gross hedging and not net hedging. Lots of people, we've been handed this down that, we only do gross hedging, natural hedge. But we know that the natural hedge is only theoretical. You need the same amount of imports and exports taking place on the same day for a natural hedge to take place, which rarely happens. We know that. So even if I have $100 million of imports and $100 million of exports on the books, I may not have a natural hedge. Now, suppose even if it happens that we have a perfect natural hedge, even then I have a duty to make a margin between both. Look at this. This is a kirane ki dukaan. A kirana store has a natural hedge on the wheat or the rice or the milk or the bread that he sells. Yet he tries to make a profit by buying at a lower price and selling at a higher price. So if I have a perfectly natural hedge, then the dollar is the commodity that the importer come exporter is dealing in. If that is so, I have a duty to try and make an import payment at 74 and to receive my export payment at 75. We have been told this, by textbooks that you don't go for, if you have a natural hedge, you don't have to do anything. But we have to employ common business, common sense. If a kirana ki dukaan, which has a natural hedge in the wheat, in the bread, in the rice, in the milk, in the dal that he buys or sells, and he tries to make a margin with, inside that, then I have to try to do that as a corporate. And I'd like to share with you here that this is the result of the Kshitij hedging method that we have been following for the last 14 years. From 2006, 2007, we've been following it. So this is the average export realization per dollar in those years. So over the last 176 months or more than 14 years, the average realization per dollar that we've got is 57.48. As against that, we have made import payment at 57.1, which gives us an export-import spread of 39 paise per dollar or 0.68%. 39 paise per dollar export-import spread is 0.68%, which is after all hedging costs. This is straight addition to profit. This can be done. This has been done. This is being done. Yes, there can be years when there are losses, but there is no business in the world which does not make losses. But overall, on the average, over the years, we are making a net profit. This shows enough that A, it can be done, it has been done, and it is being done, and therefore it should be done. Because I believe that Forex is my business, and I have to make, it is my duty as a businessman to make a margin between the rate which I buy at and the rate which I sell at. This is common business sense. So the first three were the basic principles of hedging, and now some of the principles, we can call it principles, or some of the basic techniques of techno principles of hedging. So the first there is that I should use a forecast for making my benchmarks and for my budgets. Why people think that dollar rupee cannot be forecasted. But those who have worked with us, they know that we've been forecasting dollar rupee with a 72% reliability. And our track record can be seen on our website. The short name for that, 72pct.com. And this reliability of our forecast is what helps us to generate savings or profits for our clients. So we use forecast for budgeting. We can budget our import or import purchase or export sale price based on the forecast. This will give you a competitive advantage because no one else is doing it. And we can use the forecast for hedging. We will hedge imports if forwards is less than the forecasted rate. For example, if the forward is 74.5, whereas for an import, and whereas the forecast is 75, then it means that dollar rupee can rise more than the forward, and that could be dangerous, and therefore I can hedge. Conversely, I would hedge exports if the forwards are more than the forecasted rate. So if the forwards is 74.5 and the forecast is 75, then it means that the dollar rupee can rise more than the forward. So that is an opportunity which the market is giving me. Therefore, I don't hedge. So in the first case, as an importer, I hedge, and as an exporter, I don't hedge. So the hedging decision is given to me by comparing my forecast with the forward, okay, which is something that we do all the time. All of us take a view on the market. That view has to be, given the importance that it deserves. And theoretically also, people say that why not use maybe the forwards for benchmarking. Now, there are the issues with forwards or forecasts is that in terms of ambiguity or unambiguity, the forward is a good thing because it is a single rate which is commonly known and it passes auditor scrutiny. Whereas a forecast, there can be many forecasts which can be contradictory and they can be confusing. So on the measure of issue of unambiguity, the forward is a good benchmark. But in terms of impartiality, see, a forward, especially in dollar rupee, is advantageous to an exporter. He will always want to, because the forward is always higher, it is advantageous for the exporter to sell. But it is disadvantageous to an importer. But a forecast is impartial to both. And a forward, is it an indicator of the future? No. A forward is based on spot rate plus the interest rate differential. So it is not an indicator of the future. Whereas a forecast is not related to the spot, it is a direct indicator of the future. So these are two issues which are in favor of a forecast, whereas one issue which is in favor of the forward. So on this count also, we would say that it is better to use forecasts and not forwards for benchmarking and for budgeting. Next is that when we hedge, we should never hedge 0% or be fully open, and we should never hedge 100% or be fully hedged, and we should never hedge at one shot. Okay. Now, I say this because many people feel that they have to hedge their entire exposure in one shot. This is not so. We have to hedge, we should hedge in parts. Okay. We can hedge in parts in say 3 parts or 4 parts or even 12 parts. This helps in risk diversification across different rates. Today, if I've hedged at one rate, tomorrow I've hedged at another rate. So this helps me in averaging. Plus, the risk of any one hedging decision being wrong or the impact of any one hedging decision being wrong is reduced. And because that is the impact of a wrong decision is reduced, that gives me a lot of flexibility in the mind. And therefore, it helps me to deal with volatility much better. That is why we should never be totally open, nor should we be totally hedged, and we should hedge not all at once, but in parts. We should hedge in parts. And finally, we have to measure our performance. Why we have to measure our performance? Only when we measure our performance will we start to get better. This is a maxim. If we want to get better at doing something, we have to start measuring our performance. So, and here we have, when working with companies, we find that many companies do not measure their hedging performance, and very few companies measure their hedging performance properly. So what to measure? For imports, we have to measure the average net payment rate per dollar, which would be the weighted average of all the amounts paid under forward contract plus amounts paid under spot or open market, or amounts which were hedged through options, whether the option was exercised or it went worthless. Plus, if there has been any trading profit and loss, that trading profit and loss has to be apportioned to the exposure. So this would be the formula for calculating the average net payment rate per dollar. Similarly, for exports, we have to calculate the average net receipt rate per dollar, which is again the weighted average of amounts received under forward contract, under open market spot, under options, and apportioned trading profit and loss. And when we have these average rates, we calculate the profit and loss against the spot on day one, or which we call the accounting profit loss, or the actual profit loss, so this tells us what was actually achieved through all the hedging decisions. This on the one side, and we also calculate profit and loss against spot on the settlement date, which we call the hedge PL, or the opportunity profit and loss, which tells us what would have happened if there was no hedge. So we calculate the average net payment rate per dollar, we calculate the average net receipt rate per dollar, and set it off against the spot on day one to give us the accounting profit and loss, or the actual profit and loss, and we set it off against the spot on settlement date, which gives us the hedge profit or loss, or the opportunity profit and loss. And what does that do? This gives us how the actual opportunity profit and loss works out for the importer or the exporter. So if dollar rupee is in an uptrend, and say I started my import was contracted at 71.5, and then I hedged at say 73.5, so I've actually got a loss out there. But then the market went up to 76.5. This is actual profit and loss. This is actual loss, but because this is the hedging profit, or the opportunity profit, or the loss which I have, further loss which I have saved, which feels like profit if the final market rate is 76.5. In the same token, for the exporter, suppose I had contracted my exports at 71.5. Market went up to 73.5 and I hedged. So 73.5 minus 71.5 is my actual profit which comes into my books. But then the market goes up to 76.5. That is an opportunity loss which feels like a loss. Okay. And on the way down, say market comes down from 76.5 to 73.5, and for an importer from 76.5, I hedge at say 75.5. So 76.5 minus 75.5 is actually my profit, which comes into my books. But then because the market falls further to 73.5, I feel like I've made a loss. That's an opportunity loss. This is the hedged loss. The exporter, on the other hand, if he contracted his exports at 76.5 and hedged at 75.5, he's actually got a loss. But from 75.5, the market falls further to 73.5, then he feels like he's made a profit, which is actually he's saved on further losses. And what is it that we have to aim for? We have to aim for, if we go back to this one, on this scale, on this slide, if my actual loss and my hedging profit loss, or the opportunity profit loss, if they can be equal, accounting profit is equal to hedging profit or loss, this itself, if I can achieve that over a long period of time, this itself will mean that I am hedging very well, and this itself will give me a huge competitive advantage in my industry. And later on, we can try to see whether we can have accounting profit and loss, which is more than the hedging profit or loss, because there is no end to improvement, and we should always keep trying forever to keep approaching greater and greater efficiency. So these were the half a dozen principles of hedging which I shared with you, and now I am open for questions. Any question? I would like to know about natural hedge through EFC account. Okay, so the EFC account, of course, gives you a natural hedge, but as I said, I don't want to have go for a natural hedge. A natural hedge is good if a person has no idea about how to manage FX, that is good. But as an exporter, if I'm keeping money in an EFC account, firstly, I'm not earning any interest, and secondly, I'm foregoing the forward premium that I can get on if I sell my export forward. So I really don't see why I should have why I should use an EFC account. Any other question, please? Can you please explain with examples how accounting profit and loss is equal to hedging the profit and loss? Okay, I'll bring up that slide again and I'll show it to you that if we achieve, what I meant was that if we achieve accounting profit and loss being equal to hedging profit and loss, we will be doing good. I have said that first we measure the average net payment rate per dollar or the average net receipt rate per dollar, and we calculate the calculate profit and loss by setting off this average net receipt rate against the spot on day one, on the day which I contracted my import or my export, and that will give me my accounting PL. And I also set it off my average net payment rate or my net receipt rate. I also set it off against the spot on the settlement date, which will give me the hedge PL. So say as an example, when the market rose from 71.5 to 76.5, if my import had been contracted at 71.5, if my import contract had happened when the market was 71.5, and then the market rose, and I went in and hedged at say 73.5, I have got a loss because now I am contracted to buy dollars at 73.5, whereas my costing was done at 71.5. So I've got a 2 rupee loss. And then the market goes up from 73.5 further to 76.5. So by hedging at 73.5, I have saved 3 rupees of further loss. So firstly, if we go back to the principle of my exposure is my position, by hedging at 73 half, I am doing a stop loss on my short dollar position on the import. And from 73 half, when it goes to 76 half, that is the further loss which I have avoided. That does not come into my books. But yes, that is a very legitimate thing which I have done. I have saved the company from 3 rupees of further loss. But I have got a loss, an actual loss of 2 rupees from 71 half to 73 half. So here in this case, my actual loss is 2 rupees, whereas my uh, hedging profit is 3 rupees. So here I have done very good. And say suppose I had gone from say 71 half to 76 half. Suppose I had hedged at 74, then I would have got an actual loss of 74 minus 71 half, which would have been 2.5 rupees loss. And I would have saved from 74 to 76 half, I would have saved 2.5 rupees. So my actual loss of 2.5 rupees would have been equal to the saving of 2.5 rupees, which this saving of 2.5 rupees actually doesn't come into my accounts, but it comes into my hedging performance. So I have an actual loss of 2.5 rupees and a saving of 2.5 rupees. That is when I mean that they are equal. So if we can achieve that over, in the first case, I got a loss of 2 rupees, but a saving of 3 rupees. In the second case, I got a loss of 2.5 rupees and a saving of 2.5 rupees. Even if I can get a situation over a long period of time that my accounting profit and loss is equal to my hedging profit and loss, even that will give me a lot of competitive advantage. How to measure the cost of hedging? So the cost of hedging is, say, all the things that you have, the, the forward premium that you have either paid or received, the option premium that you have either paid or received, the trading profit and loss which you have made on any, suppose you've actually traded on your exposure and you made some trading profit and loss. All of that apportioned to the exposure when set off against the initial accounting rate is your hedging cost. Does that help you, Mr. Shankar?
Hi, sir.
Yes.
No, not exactly.
Okay.
How do you measure? Because banks are very smart. They don't tell us whether they are giving the right forward premium. I mean, they will be, of course, be charging some of the margin, right,
Hmm.
from their side.
Hmm.
So I don't know because if for those bank companies where they say where we don't have the direct Bloomberg access and everything and all,
Hmm.
we just have to rely on the rate which banks are giving to us.
Hmm.
And if we tell them give us the best rate, I mean we just have so the best way is like I just have take a phone, I put up the call in 2 3 banks, and I'll pick up whatever is the best rate the banks are giving to me, and then I assume that I got the best rate.
Hmm.
But I think here the banks are making some money. That is, of course, is right. That's all because banks are there to make money. So
Hmm.
I want to quantify that cost, which I'm trying to, which the banks are charging to me.
Of course. See, the banks are here to make money, yes, but I am also here to make money. And the bank cannot make money at my cost,
Exactly.
right? So before the bank has to make money, I have to make money.
Exactly.
Then I can pay the bank. So you can, if you don't, you need not have a Bloomberg or a Reuters only. You can also have other systems are there like Cogensis or some of the other ones which are there at a lesser cost than a Bloomberg or a Reuters. And many forex advisors like us will also tell you the forward premium. Okay. Now, banks, if they tell you that no, this is you are aware that the forward premium does not move around much during the day. I hope you're aware of that, right?
Yes, exactly. But if I am, if I'm booking at a point of time, so again, there's always an element of doubt with that. Like it's an element of doubt it is whether the forward premium which I'm getting it, which I see it from the Facebook feeds or everything, That is what is there at that point of time. And if there's any implied volatility,
Mhm.
I don't know. So
You can be
again,
assured, you can be assured that the forward premium itself will not move much. The thing which moves is the spot. So if you got your spot right and the forward premium is say 25 paisa, then it might move during the day. 25 paisa might become 25 quarter or 25 half, or it might become 24 three quarter or 24 half. But 25 will not become 28, or 25 will not become 22 during the day. Okay, this is something which you can be assured, and then you just need to keep track of the spot. If you've got a spot which is all right, which and there, and now you can also use a platform called FX Retail. I hope you're aware of the FX Retail platform, are you?
yes, yes. I think RBI has given it mandated to be given to banks, but I don't think it is still being used. Exist,
So you have to get onto FX Retail. You have to go in, and because then you can see the prices on the screen. Those are interbank prices, and you can transact at those prices out there. And now in the new guidelines, RBI has also said that the banks have to put a timestamp on the forward contracts that they give you. That if this was the rate, this was the time at which this was the rate at the time of the booking the contract. Are you aware of that?
no, sir, I'm not aware of this.
Okay. So this
And
is,
this FX retail, I think banks are charging also some money on that.
yeah. So, but that margin, the brokerage which you fix with the bank, say 1 paisa or 2 paisa, 3 paisa, whatever it is, that is the brokerage which the banks also have to make money, that part. Okay. But thereafter, the spot they can't, you see the spot on the screen and you hit that.
Okay, okay, okay. So the sir, your advice is to pay the money and get that FX retail subscription.
You don't have to pay any money. That is a facility that you can avail of. You tell the bank to get you onto FX retail, and the bank will say, no, 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 we haven't heard of it. We haven't got any guidelines or this or that or other. You be behind the bank. I want to get onto FX retail. You tell me why you can't get me onto FX retail.
Okay, okay. Because last when I checked it, I think around 6 months back, they are told that it is still under development, and you may have to pay some charges for some using it. That's what I remember it.
We know clients who are using it and are benefiting from it.
Okay, okay. Thanks. I'll to check.
See the final market rate, which rate it is, trading hours and date. If that is what you can take the average of the day, you can take the closing price of the day, whatever it is, whatever one system you follow to calculate your own performance.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
If there are options available and if a corporate wants to if a corporate can hedge its exposure either through forwards or options, so how to decide that point in time whether I should go for an option or a forward?
Okay, if your view is, or the forecast is quite certain that the market will either go up or go down, use a forward contract or keep it open. But if your forecast or your view, your expectation of the market is not certain, you don't know, it could go this way also, it could go that way, your certainty level. So for instance, are you an importer or an exporter?
Both.
You are both. So say the market was falling from 17, you are certain that the market is going to fall. Then as an importer, you can keep your import position open, and you can hedge against your export position, because your export will lose money. So you sell forward and you keep the import open. On the other hand, now suppose market is at 73 half and RBI is buying, and we don't know where it will go. It can go to 73 also, it can go to 74 half also. Maybe if the certainty level is now lesser, then you could do a hedge through an option. So on the import now you could buy a call option, because in case it suddenly spikes up, if the stock market happens to fall and dollar rupee suddenly spikes up because the RBI is still buying dollars, so but there's also a chance that it can go down to 73. Here, for the import, you could buy a call option. So when certainty levels are low, you can use an option. When certainty levels are high, you can use a forward contract or keep your exposure open. But remember, the amount that you do is very, very important. Okay, so don't do like 70, 80%. Do 20, 30%, 40%, 50% at the most or something. Does that help you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next, please.
Sir, one
Yeah.
point, I think, as a follow-up questions query. So we try to negotiate with the bank, and they give us a mail also that they are charging some 1 paisa bips more than the spot rate, so that we can keep track of the margin.
Hmm.
Is it the right approach, or do you have any other alternate way to do this thing?
No, that's okay. That's okay. See, as long as and let me also tell you one thing, that many a time, first is if you have transparency between the bank and the corporate, that I'm going to pay you 1 paisa or 2 paisa or 3 paisa, whatever is decided upon as the standard brokerage. And thereafter, there is perfect transparency on the spot price, that if the market is at 73.55, the bank will give me 73.55 spot plus one. Suppose I'm an importer, I pay plus 1 paisa or 2 paisa, which comes to say 73.56 or 73.57. If I have that transparency, thereafter, as the corporate, as the importer, I should not haggle too much. That no, spot is 73.55. No, give me 73.54 half or 73.54 three quarters. That if we try to do many a times, we will lose the market.
Okay.
Okay. If you figured out that by and large, you are getting that one, you are paying that 1 paisa margin or the 2 paisa margin, and the bank is giving you the by and large the correct price, then go with it.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we are trying to do it here. So,
Yeah.
but we still have this element of doubt whether how to track the cost of hedging. So that's what it is. Anyway.
So you can, as I said, the forward premium you can know either from any of the information systems or from any of the forex advisors like us or anybody else. We can also tell you about the forward premium, and the forward premium does not move around too much during the day. Then you just got to keep track of the spot. Okay, and the spot that you see even on free websites is not very, very different from the interbank rate. And the interbank rate might, if you see 73.55 on the screen and he tells you 73.55 half, go with it.
And one thing it is, and this is like very subjective, I want to say, is there any particular time of the day where we can time it and probably get the best rate, say, just the average published rate?
There's no, I've not found anything like that. In all my years, I've not found any good time of the day.
So like whatever time we need the money, we just go pick up the phone, like
Or
nothing.
whatever rate that you're tracking, you find it as a good rate on the screen that you can take.
Okay. And is it like this? I have seen this thing also. Sorry, I'm taking time. That very month-end rate, there's a lot of volatility near when the RBI does some, auction billing and all those things. So we should avoid those times or something like that. Or these things.
Yes. So towards the end of the month or the beginning of the month, there is volatility. If you can avoid that, that is good.
So the end of the month, last 3 days, and the beginning of the first 4 days, probably. That's right. If I can take just an approximate kind of a benchmark thing and avoid that. Okay.
Or use it to your advantage.
Use it to advantage. Yep. That's fine. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. With this, then, I thank all those who gave their time and came in for the webinar. You see, I hope it has been useful to everybody. There were 6 principles that we talked about. First is that Forex is your business. Second, that your exposure is your position. Third, go for gross hedging and not net hedging. Use a forecast for benchmarking and not the forwards. Never hedge 0% or 100% hedge in parts. And lastly, very importantly, measure your performance, because as soon as we start measuring performance, we start improving. And I hope that everyone just keeps on hedging better and better and better. Thank you very much. So with this, I'll end the meeting. Good night to everybody.